Mr. Moody, for what purpose?
Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you. I want to clarify something because we know we've had a number of conversations about this, about the measure as a whole, but specifically about language like is in front of us with this amendment. And you stated that there's been a rapidly increasing number of diagnoses that concerns you. Is that correct?
I did, yes. And I would point out that additional diagnoses beyond that. There's a whole new phenomenon now that didn't exist when the Dutch studies were done called rapid onset gender dysphoria, where girls and adolescents going through puberty in groups present claiming that they're experiencing gender dysphoria. And, I think there's investigations going on looking into this, and as I recall, in some places. And so I guess, and I know you and I have talked about this extensively, and I really tried very hard to work with you on this, but at the end of the day, the science is so inconsistent and of such low quality that I do not have confidence in these doctors' ability to accurately diagnose severe gender dysphoria.
Well, and I think that's kind of the point I want to clarify about this amendment. Because that was a concern you raised as we worked on this language. Right. And you said, I don't trust that these physicians are going to make the right decisions.
That's right.
And so that's not what that's not where this amendment stops.
I know.
It then places over the top of it, which is nowhere else in any sort of medical care in Texas that I can tell, it places in the hands of a state agency the ability to look at that decision making and then either approve or disapprove of it. And isn't that what the amendment does?
It does, yes.
And ultimately the buck would stop here, not with the physician's diagnosis, not with, and in fact it's multiple, but not just there. It would have a number of different,
that's right,
but speed bumps along the way, ending at the very last with a state agency that this body has 100% oversight of. Isn't that correct?
But Representative, these therapies themselves have not gone through the appropriate scientific process in order to be considered a standard of care. So what you're saying is we want to have a pathway in severe cases which we're not really sure how to identify, but we're trusting that the agency will figure it out so that we can continue to use therapies of questionable value for which there's a growing list of risks and harms. And I just don't think that's in the best interest of kids. And I know that's really terrible science in terms of quality. And so that very much is the issue this body must consider with respect to this bill, is bringing a halt to these treatments.
When you said that, you used the word questionable, and I'm willing to accept the way you view this. I know you're willing to accept the way that I view it. And so when you have those questions, isn't the best way to bring us to a conclusion about the questions we've got is to place some restrictions on top of it and start to understand and develop more information for us to be able to move forward. We do this a lot.
We do, but I would agree with you with the caveat, which I think is important and that the body understands, and it's part of the reason that I cannot accept this amendment, is that your supposition is correct in the absence of clearly defined harms. But that is part of this conversation, is that we know now. When we talked earlier about this isn't the first time this issue has come before the legislature. It's not the first time this issue has come before any legislature, but there has been an evolution over time with respect to the gender medicine experts used to come and assert to us that everything they did was completely and totally reversible and there were no permanent effects. And then they came later and they said, well, it's mostly reversible. And now we know today that it's completely irreversible. So these are things that are being done to children under the age of 18 that are irreversible, that will cause side effects, complications, and abnormalities that they will have to live with for the entirety of the rest of their life. And I just, unfortunately, respectfully, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot, and I love you like a brother, and I respect you tremendously, but I just don't think this is in the best interest of kids. So respectfully, that's kind of where I am.
Well, I think when we have questions, we should seek answers and not just say no. I appreciate where you're coming from on this, and I just wish we could get to a space where we could continue to understand this, and you use the word evolution, and see where this evolves to. I think that would be important for these families and these kids. Thank you.
I know. Thank you.